Tell me about working with the labels. We've talked about this before. So tell me about the experience of getting started with Universal.
Well, I had so much that I had already done, independently before Universal came along. And we call them the majors. This is the major machine. This is everybody's dream to start as an independent artist and make it to the big muscle that's going to take you global. And I had a lot of leverage when I went into Universal. I had already sold hundreds of thousands of independent records. I had, crazy mixtape buzz from all my mixtapes just being bootlegged all across the internet and everywhere. And, so I went in there and I pretty much told Universal everything everybody told me not to tell them.
Yeah, like what?
They're like, actually my lawyer was like, he called me, he was like, well, what did you tell them? Because this deal that I got is like the biggest I've ever seen for a new artist, Like, what did you go in there? I said, I told them everything everybody told me not to tell them. I was just super authentic. I went in there and said, you know what, I'm perfectly comfortable leaving here not signed. Like, that was like one of the first things I said.
Yeah.
And they're looking at me like, the nerve of this guy, what do you mean? Like, and I was like, I'm perfectly comfortable leaving here, and going back home and continuing and just progressing the way I have without being signed. And after talking, they eventually told me, no, you're not leaving New York until you're signed at Universal.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because I actually came into Universal with all the patches from all the other labels that I had visited.
Yeah.
So they're looking at me like, oh, you're not going to take the patches off? Like, you're just going to brag to us that you went
did
to
it
every
just to
label
wind them
before?
up?
I mean, I just didn't feel like taking them off.
Yeah.
Like, I was meeting with everybody, and I would just let them know you're not the only person I'm talking to, because, people do that all the time. They always say, oh, a bunch of labels are after me, and they just kind of lie, So I don't want them to look at me as one of the people that were lying. When I'm coming in here and I'm telling you numbers, I'm telling you real numbers. I'd say 80+% of artists are in debt with the label.
Where does that debt come from? Is it they spend a bunch of money on marketing for you, and you actually owe them that back?
Yeah.
And they have to recoup that before you see profits?
Yeah, and it's crazy because, they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
They could say right now, we spent $50,000 on this, and you can't really dispute it. Back in the days, the major system used to be major.
Yeah.
You spend major money to make major money back.
Yeah.
You spend major money nowadays to make little money back and be in debt.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in debt with a label, and that's just all I'm saying. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And they get you in a situation where you're in debt and you're owing.
Yeah.
Now, when you own your own label and you go to a major, then it's their own label pretty much, because they're pretty much the boss. So you can have your own label off of a major, but then you still have to get distribution. You still have to put it out. A lot of these places are owned by the major companies.
So even to hit the kind of numbers that you want to hit in terms of consumers listening to your music, you have to work with a label. There's no way to have your own label.
I don't know about that. Now with the internet, it's made things a little different. It's changed the dynamics of it now, because it's kind of killing their industry a little bit, but it's making it easier for people to reach certain places. Like, I'll be on Twitter and people from Nigeria are hitting me up now. You know what I mean? The task is to, how do we get all these people music? Like, how do we get them, if they don't want physical CDs, like iTunes and all these other places, TuneCore, all these places that allow you to, put up digital stuff, it's cool. But I still think there's a big, physical still sells more than digital.